this is Bob Andelman, and you're listening to and hopefully watching the Mr. Media radio interview with novelist Cynthia Kraack, author of Ashwood. So I've got to ask you, do you have a favorite cinematic or fictional view of the future? I mean, anything from, say, 2001: A Space Odyssey or Planet of the Apes to Brave New World or even Max Headroom. Any of those?
Boy, I don't think one that does come to mind um, is actually not, big cinema, but if you saw Children of Men, it's about a 4-year-old movie at this
Mhm.
point, with Clive Owens was the main male actor, and it's actually off of a novel by P.D. James, who's better known for her mystery work, I would guess. She's probably late 80s British writer.
Hmm.
And the reason is I think that in some ways the world of the future will feel a lot like today, but just with some significant changes that make it very different. For instance, 30 years ago, people thought that something really major would be different today. And computers do fit into that, I think, or the whole digital era. But on the other hand, we still have refrigerators and we still watch televisions. That a lot hasn't changed about life. So I think it's more those kind of that movie often, which really is around a supposition that for some reason, um, sorry, but all men become sterile, so there are no babies being born, and kind of like the dealing with a society that doesn't have a future to look forward
Mhm.
to, although a child is born at the end of it, so there is that kind of hopeful piece. But that's, I guess, part of my um, kind of my vision is I don't think it's going to be as wacky as Waterworld or those kind of movies might have it be, at least for a long time.
That's good because I don't swim very well.
Yeah, and I am an optimist, even though I may kind of capture this dark potential of the future. I am a fairly optimistic person,
Well,
or I wouldn't be
Well,
writing.
it does it help to get it all out on the page? Those maybe any concerns you have or anxieties that we put it on the page and then you can put it in a box and you're done with it.
And you're done with it. A little bit. I think I also put it on the page though because it's fun to have some of the discussions. Kind of the real hardcore. Like my writing group is predominantly male that I work with, and boy, do we have some really lively discussions about like would public policy ever allow this? And on the other hand, we also have real big arguments about in the beginning of Ashwood. The driver is using a steering stick. Oh, the
Right.
guys were all just like, how would that happen? Kind of like into the technology of like cars changing. And it's fun to think about the future, both, positive as well as potentially frightening things.
Do you think in the future, the Ashwood future, they have a way to make dogs not bark at inopportune
Ah,
times?
ah, my dog is actually downstairs behind a gate, so he couldn't come near. I don't think so. I think the dogs are probably, if they're still around, are pretty
All
healthy.
right. Well, it's worth a try. Let me ask you this: if you could choose one product or service, I gave this great thought now, uh, that you would always have available to you in the future, what would it be?
Product or service? Wow. Um, I mean, really, really big picture would probably be a source of light and heat. Of course, I live in Minnesota, so the thought of like if we lost the ability to, have natural gas or something going through, life could stop here. But were you thinking more kind of fun, or were you thinking of something that basic?
I would never lead the witness council. Um,
Okay, okay. That. I mean, if I were being real practical, it would probably be something like a source of water, from a life standpoint. But on a day when it's only 8 degrees, I have to think in terms of also having lights and
Now
heat.
you're in Minnesota, which we all know is
Uh,
this time of year is it's very white and very bleak for a lot of people.
right. Oh, yeah.
That
Uh,
constant, the snow day after day, the
yeah.
togetherness. You
Yep.
probably get stuck at home a lot. um,
Yep. This year in particular,
I
we
think
have
that
been.
I've known a lot of people from Minnesota over the years. I've had plenty of friends, but
Mhm.
I think your book was the first time I got a sense of really how bleak that could really be.
Yeah. Well, and my first book was
Hmm.
called Minnesota Cold, so it gets even worse. Uh, and I grew up originally in a small town in Wisconsin that was really an agricultural town. Um, and I don't think I could ever live on a farm uh, through a long winter without probably
Mm.
computers at least or some kind of connection piece. Um, but it does, that kind of stoicism is a thing that people take a great deal of pride in here, and the ability to, not need as much like interaction as you would get in a Chicago or the Twin Cities or
Mm.
wherever. Um, so I think it's a very valid part of the myth about how it feels to live in the Upper
I th-
Midwest.
I think in the
Um,
book, Matron Anne, um, it
mhm.
seems like she takes some comfort in that device in her ear and knowing that she can always talk to someone or they can talk to her. As frightening as it also is because they can always talk to her.
Well, it is that kind of love-hate. It's I think we're on the tip of that with our cell phones and texting now is that you can be walking through you can be at a gas station pumping gas and you can be having a conversation with someone. Um, and so you're not often left alone with your own thoughts. On the other hand, there are times when it's a huge kind of invasion. And so she's both got the magic of the communication, but she is a bit of
Hmm.
a slave to it
Now,
as well.
in Ashwood, the future is how do I put it? It's always being captured in sound and video, and but a lot of people think that future's
Yeah.
already on us. When yeah, you can go pretty much anywhere, and there's a good chance somebody's got a video camera going. Is that frightening?
Mhm. I don't know if it's. I once heard Margaret Atwood talk about that nothing in her speculative fiction is her imagination, that everything is real and she's picked up in some article or whatever. And I think I've gone to the same approach because I'm not a tech wizard to be able to kind of really project out what cool things could happen. Um, and the piece that kind of frightens me about it is that we're all human and we don't always have like perfect lives. There are those times where we're yelling at the dog or whatever, and we'd rather that it not get out on YouTube and become permanent. So, that kind of like sense of your what people remember of you could be well captured in some totally odd moment. And I think I am kind of frightened about the thought of government being uh, too able to connect into everything, like to maintain all of our email and voicemail someplace, because we all
Mhm.
know it can be really changed, and that history, whether of individuals or of societies or families or countries, are always, kind of reconfigured based on the people who are trying to write the history for some reason. So that kind of reconfiguring of reality. Um, so it's much easier to do that with a clip of altered video than it is with just kind of like describing something. But I think it's a reality. We haven't really come to grips with how we're going to be civil about using all this, but it's here and
Well,
we've got it.
I'm sorry.
Just like a lot of other
Let's take
things.
a quick break. When we come back, I want to lighten up a little bit,
Okay.
talk to you a little bit about craft and writing itself.
Good.
Um, this is Bob Andelman, and you're
Okay.
listening to and hopefully watching the Mr. Media radio interview with novelist Cynthia Kraack, author of Ashwood. And we'll be right back.
Hey, did you know that you can listen to the latest Mr. Media on your phone with the Stitcher app? Stitcher is smart radio for your smartphone. Mr. Media is on demand and on the go with Stitcher. Download Stitcher for your phone today. Get the free download at Stitcher.com. That's STITCHER.com.